Hello everyone, welcome to this video. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what are some of the things that we are subscribing to on on the internet, whether you're visiting a website, you're browsing, and just understanding what happens to your information as you are browsing online. So a couple of months ago, I was reading a book by Susanna Zuboff, who's one of the well-known activists and authors in the space of data privacy, protection of personal information, and the whole regulation of the internet space. So in this book, Susanna writes, every news update on your phone, how you interact with your phone in the daily, whether you click on the news or you don't click on the news, all of this is carefully monitored, and the internet or the algorithms adjust the parameters accordingly so that it forces you to interact with your device. I mean, when you're not on your phone, let's say you've used your phone for a few seconds and then you let go, it constantly switches on and off, or there's a flashing light that forces you to interact with your device. So when it comes to your morning jog, your interaction with social media platforms, your commute when you're searching on Google Maps or Waze, the context and text of your messages, the words that you speak as I'm speaking on this video right now, every single thing that we are doing is being surveilled by you know um, big companies such as Google, Facebook, and the likes. All these companies, the fact that we are subscribed to this company, they actually can see what we do online. And what she says on the book is that these companies have actually persuaded us to give out our information or to give out our privacy for the sake of convenience. So you'll see when you're Googling or when you land on a particular website, there's this statement from the privacy policy section that says we collect the cookie information to improve your browsing experience. So there's been an ongoing debate around how governments, states can regulate the use of data. So in this conversation, we're talking about, as a digital marketeer, how do you then ensure that you are not violating any of the privacy laws that are already put up, from the GDPR to POPI to FICA and all of these regulations that have been put out there to sort of protect the user. Okay, so a very, very prominent um, businessman, mathematician, author, and entrepreneur by the name of Clive said something very, very controversial, philosophical, 15 years ago, where he said, in the next 15 years, this was in 2006, in the next 15 years, he said, data will surpass the value of oil. When you look at the biggest companies right now, Google, Facebook, Amazon, all of these companies have $1 trillion market value, or even more than that. And when you look at the oil companies, this is triple fold the amount or the market valuation of all of these companies combined. So the role of data in modern business is really, really, really impacting how businesses are engaging with the consumer, engaging with the marketplace, because there's just so much information that is stored online, that companies are really capitalizing, whether it's from an advertising point of view to processing that information to direct marketing to reselling to retargeting. All of this information is already readily available out there for businesses. But now the important question is then, how do businesses treat this information in a very lawful, transparent, and ethical ethical manner, because then it's very important for a business to, consider the fact that in as much as the internet has, allowed, companies to have access to data, how do you then ensure that you are lawful in how you go about doing that? Now, there's been, an immense amount of, publications around this. Data is the new oil. A lot of publication houses have written extensively about this, in terms of how, data carries more value than any other commodity out there. I was just mentioned that Facebook is a multi-million trillion billion dollar company, and all that sits with Facebook is data. We're going to review in a short while, what are some of the implications of data, and how you as a digital marketeer or somebody interested in the space can really manage, um, how you process and how you, um, engage with user data online, the user data online. So most businesses, currently are heavily reliant on this data more than they rely on what would previously be raw materials. So big companies, they rely on, accessing user data, whether it be for the purpose of building models, for the purpose of doing predictive analytics, or for the purpose of building any capability around artificial intelligence or machine learning, or whatever the case may be. So all of this information, companies are gunning for such to have access to user data. So, however, it's very important to understand how this information is collected. So a simple and most obvious way that, your browsing activities is recorded is through your cookie activity. Now, cookies are essentially any small piece of information which is obviously stored on your computer, on your local drive. So some companies use specific technologies like integrating their platforms onto Google's API, whether it's browsing, passwords, authentication, to analytics. So all of the information is obviously stored as you engaging with the browser. Now, all of this information must also be processed in the particular way, and users must be informed as to if the platform has got cookies active or not. So some of the you would have seen in the last couple of years, especially after the whole Facebook debacle, and the whole saga with Cambridge Analytica, and the regulation around Facebook, and the whole lawsuit, that Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg had to go through when it comes to, breach of data, and how some of the data is being sold to, political parties for whatever use, or to manipulate certain voters to favor particular individuals. So in the case of Cambridge Analytica, you would have seen that it was during the time where Barack Obama was elected as president. So all that information, it moves as you are browsing online. Uh, Websites are collecting that information, and all of how this information is being collected and is used is stored on your cookies, or the cookies, um, 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 integration, or cookies. Now, when it comes to websites, so you would have seen that a lot of websites have a pop-up that says, um, "You do you understand how the information is used and processed? Do you understand how the information is collected and saved for later use, or even third-party applications?" So you would have seen a pop-up that says, "We use cookies on the site. Do you agree or disagree?" In most cases, they wouldn't even give you an option to disagree, because it's mostly information around how your um, browsing history will be recorded on the cookie. So how this all works, right? So how this all works is that you arrive on the platform. So as an unsuspecting user, this is from a user point of view. You get onto a website, and then you search, and then that particular website requests information from the web itself. And then once that happens, uh, uh, the site will obviously give you information as a response to your search query. That on its own is recorded, and then some of it is recorded on your computer drive, on your local drive, and other is recorded on the cookies on web browser, which is stored in the G folder. It's called the G underscore slash forward slash folder on Google, which then obviously the aim is to improve your browsing experience and only give you information that is, likely or that you are more interested in, rather than give you all the generic information. Okay, so whatever that comes back to you on your search is also stored on the cookies folder on your local bar, and then whatever that you do online is then stored on your local folder. So do this for me on your during your spare time. Go onto Google and Google My Activity, right? So once you click on Google My Activity and you access that profile, you will see how much information is collected as you are browsing the internet. So, what are some of the examples of your favorite platforms that you go to, and what are they saying about how the information is collected? So, we're going to start with Facebook. So, when you go onto Facebook website, if you have read the privacy policy, one of the things that they say is that as you are browsing the website, so they collect the information to provide and personalize and improve their products. Products being the Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger, or yeah, the Instagram Messenger, the Instagram app itself, WhatsApp, and all the other apps that are associated to Facebook. So they say they use the information to improve their products. And then also they further say they also use location-based services so that they can tailor the advertisements or make the content based on where you are located. I mean, you don't want to see all the information from everywhere in the world if you are located in a particular place. What you want to see is custom and more relevant information. So they use your IP address. They use any other activity in their products. If you're on Instagram and then you're using or tagging a location, as you have your location services enabled, all this information is collected. And then they also integrate with partners being the other Meta products. And then also remember, Facebook owns other applications, whether it's games, the Oculus, and so on and so forth. All of these things are integrated onto Meta's platform. So essentially, all that information is moves through those different platforms. They also use vendors because businesses are gunning for this data. So the data is not necessarily about your ID number or your maybe your date of birth or anything of that nature. It's essentially things that you comment, things that you like or dislike, or your interests, your hobbies, your whatnots, anything that you interact with on the social media platform. They also have, obviously, as a company that heavily relies on making money through advertising for businesses. So they also collect your information so that they tailor make the advertisements, and then, which will ultimately help businesses to better advertise to specific audiences. So they say, they provide advertisers with the reports about the number and kinds of people who see and engage with their ads. These reports is about information, general demographics, interest in anyone that has engaged with the ad. So what this then does from a business point of view is that when you're running a social media campaign, especially on Facebook, and then let's say for example, one of the users clicks on the ad or engages with your ad, then whoever is on that user's profile or is a friend to the user, they will also be exposed to that ad. So as long as you are subscribed to Facebook or you have Facebook account, just know that the information is linked. And then more closer to home, which is your Takealot. So they have got a privacy policy as well. It clearly states how the information is being used. If you have an option to opt out or opt in, as long as you're on the platform, then the information is being collected by the website. And they also track cookies as well. So as a business, it's very important to have the privacy policy in place, because then you are more transparent in terms of how you use and process user data. So the very important thing when it comes to now, how does it implicate digital marketeers, is to understand that regardless of where your company markets to and which regulations you comply with, it's very important to apply and understand how the data, the general data regulation protection or policy works. Now, the important thing is to note that number one, it's very important to allow people to consent to receiving your marketing messages, whether it's from email to SMS to any form of direct marketing. You need to provide consent. They need to know and they need to consent to receiving your marketing messages. Also, transparency and fairness, as well as lawfulness as you process the information, is very important. And then also, very, very importantly, security, integrity, as well as confidentiality must be treated as utmost importance, because there are dire consequences if a company is using, or they're collecting user information and there's no protection around it. We've seen a lot of companies exposed to such breach where an attacker or a cyber attacker or a hacker, whatever the case may be, is able to access records of clients, and then they sell it in the dark web. Also, allowing users to opt in and opt out is very important. There needs to be the option. And then also, a lot of companies have engaged in buying data from the dark web. So when the data is breached, or there's a data breach, it's always sold in the dark web. A lot of companies, especially marketeers, who understand how the dark web operates, they would go and buy data from the dark web. So it's very important that you stay away from such practices. And then also the accuracy and accountability. Staying up to date with the data and understanding that if you're using inaccurate data, then your decision making in terms of marketing will also be impacted by this inaccuracy. And then most importantly, keeping up to date your privacy policy content on the website, as well as the terms and conditions. Now, a lot of companies rarely update their T's and C's. Come time where a customer is now reporting some sort of breach or some sort of unlawfulness, then the company has to go back to the privacy policy and rectify, where now there's a whole lawsuit around such an issue. Okay, so as you browse through the internet, consider the fact that there's data that is being stored and recorded. So as a consumer, you must be aware of this. As a digital marketeer, you must be considerate of the laws that guide how the information is processed and used for further processing and for marketing purposes. You must be aware of what are some of the regulations around that. So as I said earlier, if the customer data is inaccurate or out of date, then you cannot make accurate decisions, which is very important. All right. Next time you browse online, ask yourself, what is being collected about me on this platform?